Picture this, you're a 21-year-old nursing student at the University of Massachusetts. It's Monday, February the 9th, 2004, and you've just sent emails to all your professors with the same message. There's been a death in the family, I need to take the week off. Except here's the thing, nobody in your family has died. You've just lied to everyone you know, packed your car with alcohol and mysterious belongings, and you're about to drive off into the New Hampshire wilderness. 7 hours later, your car is found crashed and abandoned on a remote mountain road in the middle of nowhere. But you've vanished without a trace, leaving behind one of the most baffling disappearances in American history. This is the story of Maura Murray, and I guarantee you, by the end of this, you'll be questioning everything you think you know about missing person cases. Welcome back to Boyzilla, where Britain's darkest mysteries meet their match. Now, before we dive into today's absolutely mental story, if you fancy hearing about the strange, the dark and the mysterious, all delivered with a proper British twist, then you've come to the right place. I post new stories daily for you to binge. And if you could do me a solid and give that like button a proper British greeting, you know, a polite nod, maybe offer it a cup of tea, that would be absolutely brilliant. Also, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of my weekly tales. Right, let's get into today's story. Right, so let's talk about Maura Murray, because this woman was absolutely not your typical troubled student who runs away from problems. We're talking about a former West Point cadet, yeah, a bloody West Point, who transferred to UMass to become a nurse, track star, honour student, comes from a tight-knit family. On paper, Maura had everything sorted, but something was going very wrong in Maura's world in the days leading up to her disappearance. And when I tell you about the events that preceded February the 9th, you'll understand why this case has haunted investigators for 20 years. It starts on Thursday, February the 5th. Maura's working her campus security job, basically sitting at a desk, checking IDs, easy money for a student. Around 1 AM, she gets a phone call. Now, we don't know who called her or what was said, but whatever was discussed in that phone call caused Maura to have a complete and total emotional breakdown. We're talking about sobbing uncontrollably, unable to function. She had to be sent home by a supervisor. Her sister Kathleen later said she'd spoken to Maura that night, but here's the thing, Maura never told anyone what that call was about, ever. She took that secret with her, wherever she disappeared to. So Friday and Saturday pass, and Maura seems to be getting back to normal. But then comes the Saturday night, February the 7th, and this is where things get absolutely mental. Maura's out at a party with friends. She'd borrowed her dad's brand new car. We're talking about Fred Murray's pride and joy, his shiny new ride. And somehow, some way, Maura manages to crash this car into a guardrail. £8,000 of damage. 8,000. Fred's new car is basically totaled. Now, Fred Murray, who by all accounts is a devoted father, he doesn't lose his mind. He doesn't scream or shout. He just tells Maura that insurance will cover it. Everything's going to be fine. But Maura is absolutely devastated. She's crying, she's apologetic, she's clearly more upset about this accident than the situation warrants. But here's the thing, what's really interesting. Some people think this crash wasn't an accident at all. They think Maura deliberately crashed her dad's car. Why? We'll get to that in a minute. Monday, February the 9th, 2004. This is the day that changes everything. And when you see how methodically Maura planned her disappearance, you'll realise this wasn't some spur of the moment decision. At 1 PM, Maura emails her boyfriend, "I love you more, stud." Normal couple stuff, right? Nothing suspicious there. But then, between 3:30 and 4 a.m, yes, you heard that right, the middle of the bloody night, Maura's on her computer doing very specific internet searches. She's looking up directions to Burlington, Vermont. She's researching the Berkshire Mountains. She's mapping out routines through New Hampshire. This woman is planning a trip, and she's doing it in secret. At 11:30 a.m, she goes to the bank and withdraws $280, nearly every penny in her account. She's emptying her finances. Then she starts sending the emails. "Professors, death in the family, need a week off. Work supervisor at the art gallery, family emergency, won't be in this week." But here's the kicker. She calls her boyfriend Billy, who's stationed at West Point, and tells him she's gotten the phone number for the condo they've talked about renting for spring break. Completely normal conversation, like nothing's wrong. Maura Murray was living two completely different realities that morning. In one, she's a normal student making spring break plans. In the other, she's systematically cutting ties with her entire life. So what does someone pack when they're planning to vanish? Well, Maura's choices were interesting. She's got textbooks. Why bring textbooks if you're running away? She's packed birth control pills. Suggests she's planning to be away for a while. She's got toiletries, some clothes, normal stuff you expect. But then there's the alcohol. Lots of alcohol. We're talking about a bottle of vodka, some wine, enough booze for a proper bender. And remember, Maura's already had issues with alcohol. She's been caught using a stolen credit card to order police while drunk as well. The really strange bit? She packs a rag. Just a random rag. Nobody knew why at the time, but that rag would become crucial evidence later. At 2:05 p.m, Maura Murray loads her black 1996 Saturn sedan and drives off the UMass campus. Security cameras catch her leaving, but they never catch her coming back. She's driving towards New Hampshire, towards a destination that nobody, not her family, not investigators, not amateur sleuths who spent decades on this case, have ever been able to figure out. Route 112 in New Hampshire is not where you want to have a car accident. We're talking about the middle of bloody nowhere. Dense woods, freezing temperatures, mountain wilderness stretching for miles in every direction. It's around 7 p.m. It's dark, it's cold, and there's snow on the ground. Maura's driving along this winding mountain road when something goes wrong. Her Saturn hits a snowbank and spins off the road. The front end is completely crumpled, the windshield is spiderweb cracked, and the car is undrivable. Maura Murray is stranded in one of the most isolated spots in New Hampshire. But here's where this case gets absolutely fascinating. What happens in the next 15 minutes will puzzle investigators for the next 2 decades. At 7:27 p.m, a local woman calls 911 to report an accident. She can see the car from her house. She can see someone moving around near it, but she can't tell what's happening. 7:37 p.m, a school bus driver named Butch Atwood is heading home from his route when he spots the crashed Saturn. He pulls over and talks to someone stranded by the car. Now, this is where things get mental. Butch Atwood becomes the last person to definitively see Maura Murray alive, and his description of that conversation is absolutely crucial to understanding what happened next. Butch Atwood was your typical New Hampshire local, school bus driver, knew everyone in the area, the kind of bloke who would stop to help if he saw someone in trouble. So he pulls up to the crashed Saturn and he sees a young woman standing by the car. Dark hair, around 5'7", wearing dark clothing. She seems nervous, agitated, but not injured. "Are you alright, love? Need me to call the police?" Butch asks. No, I'm fine. I've already called AAA, they're on their way. Now, here's the thing. Maura's mobile phone didn't have service in that area. There was no way she could have called AAA. So, why did she lie to Butch Atwood? Butch said something else that haunted investigators ever since. He said Maura seemed frightened, but not of the accident. She seemed frightened of him, of having someone stop to help her, like she was afraid of being found. Butch drives home. We're talking maybe a 100-yard journey to his house, and he immediately calls the police. The call goes through at 7:42 p.m. At 7:46, Sergeant Cecile Smith arrives at the crash site, 4 minutes after Butch Atwood called for help. The car is there, the front end is smashed, the airbags have been deployed, there's glass everywhere. But Maura Murray, gone, vanished, disappeared into thin air. Right, so when the police examine Maura's abandoned Saturn, they find things that make absolutely no sense if you're thinking this was just a normal accident. First, there's that rag I mentioned earlier. It's been stuffed into the car's tailpipe. Now, Maura's dad later explained that he taught her this trick. If your car is smoking badly, you stick a rag in the exhaust to reduce the visible smoke and avoid getting pulled over by the police. So Maura knew her car was having serious problems, but she drove it anyway, into the New Hampshire wilderness, at night, in winter. Second, there's alcohol everywhere. A red stained soda bottle that smells of alcohol, vodka bottles, the car reeks of booze. But here's the weird bit. There's no evidence Maura was drunk driving during the accident. None of the witnesses mention erratic driving, and the accident could have happened to anyone on that icy, winding road. Third, the car doors are locked, but the airbags have been deployed. In a 1996 Saturn, the airbags deploying should have automatically unlocked the doors. So how are the doors still locked? And finally, there are no footprints. None. You'd expect to see evidence of where Maura went after the crash, especially in the snow. But it's like she just evaporated. Now, here's where this case goes from mysterious to absolutely mind-bending. And this theory, if it's true, would explain everything. What if Maura Murray wasn't alone that night? What if someone else was travelling with her, following her in a separate car? Think about it. Maura researches directions, but she's never been to this area before. How does she know where she's going? What if she was following someone who did know this area? The tandem driver theory suggests when Maura crashed, her accomplice, someone who was planning to meet or already travelling with, picked her up, and they just both disappeared together. This would explain why there are no footprints leading away from the car. This would explain why she seemed nervous when Butch Atwood stopped. She wasn't afraid of him, she was afraid he'll notice the second car. And here's the really chilling possibility. What if that tandem driver wasn't there to help her? What if Maura was being followed by someone with sinister intentions, and when she crashed, she became the perfect victim? Meanwhile, back in Massachusetts, Maura's family is going mental trying to figure out what's happened. Fred Murray, he gets a call that every parent dreads. Your daughter's car has been found crashed and abandoned, and she's nowhere to be found. He immediately drives to New Hampshire and begins what will become a 2-decade obsession with finding his daughter. But as the family starts piecing together Maura's last days, they discover all these lies she's been telling. The fake family emergency, the mysterious internet searches, the alcohol, the careful planning. This wasn't the Maura they knew. The Maura they knew was responsible, honest, goal-orientated. She wasn't someone who lied to professors or planned mysterious trips to nowhere. Unless something had happened to change her. Unless something or someone had given her a reason to run. Remember that phone call on February the 5th that caused Maura to have a complete breakdown at work? Well, investigators spent years trying to figure out who made that call and what was said. The call came in at around 1 AM while Maura was working campus security. After the call, Maura was found crying uncontrollably by her supervisor. She was sent home and never explained what the call was about. Some people think it was her sister Kathleen calling about family drama. Others believe it was her boyfriend, Billy, calling about relationship problems. But there's a third theory that's absolutely chilling. What if the call was from someone Maura didn't know? What if someone had been stalking her, threatening her, giving her a reason to want to disappear? What if that phone call was the beginning of whatever led to her vanishing 4 days later? Here's where the Maura Murray case becomes something completely different from other missing person cases. The internet adopted Maura Murray. We're talking about forums, blogs, podcasts, amateur detectives spending thousands of hours analysing every piece of evidence, Reddit threads with tens of thousands of comments, YouTube videos breaking down the timeline minute by minute. The case became the serial of missing person cases before serial even existed. Everyone had a theory and everyone thought they could solve it. All that internet attention came with a cost. The Murray family found themselves dealing not just with their daughter's disappearance, but with conspiracy theories, accusations, and amateur investigators showing up at their door. Fred Murray, Maura's dad, has spent 20 years searching for his daughter. He's followed every lead, investigated every theory, never given up hope. But the internet circus around the case has sometimes made that search harder, not easier. So what actually happened to Maura Murray? Well, after 20 years of investigation, there are several theories and honestly, each one is plausible and terrifying as the next. Theory 1. The opportunistic predator. Maura crashed, started walking for help, and encountered the wrong person. Someone driving by saw a young woman alone on a dark road and took advantage of the situation. She's been murdered, a body hidden somewhere in the vast New Hampshire wilderness. Theory 2. The planned disappearance. Maura was running from something: legal troubles, family drama, relationship problems, and she just used the crash as a cover to disappear. She's alive somewhere, living under a new identity, and chose to never contact her family. Theory 3. The tandem driver gone wrong. Maura was meeting someone or travelling with someone who turned out to have sinister intentions. What started as an escape plan became a murder. Theory 4. Death by exposure. Maura left the crash site on foot, became disorientated in the wilderness, and died from exposure. The body is somewhere in the woods, waiting to be found. Each theory has evidence supporting it. Each theory has devoted followers who are convinced they've solved the case. But the issue is, none of them have brought Maura home. 20 years later, the search for Maura Murray continues. In 2024, investigators released a age progression photo showing what Maura might look like today at 42 years old. New Hampshire State Police added the case to FBI's VCAP database, hoping to find connections with other unsolved cases. Search teams continue to comb the wilderness around the crash site. Fred Murray, now in his 70s, he still organises searches, still follows leads, still believes he'll find his daughter. The family have never given up hope. With advances in DNA analysis, cell phone technology, and digital forensics, investigators believe there's still a chance of solving this case. Evidence that seemed useless in 2004 might hold the key in 2024. But here's what really gets me about the Maura Murray case. It's not about what happened to one young woman. It's about how someone can disappear so completely in the modern world. Think about it. Maura had a mobile phone, credit cards, family who loved her, friends who cared about her. She lived in an age of security cameras, internet records, digital footprints. But how does someone just vanish? And if it could happen to Maura Murray, smart, capable, surrounded by people who cared about her, how easy could it happen to any of us? The case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about safety, about the limits of modern technology, about how quickly someone can go from being a real person with hopes and dreams to being just another unsolved mystery. The Maura Murray case has fundamentally changed how we think about missing person investigations. It's shown the power of crowdsourced investigation, but also its dangers. It's demonstrated how the internet can keep a case alive in public consciousness, but also how it can complicate law enforcement efforts. Most importantly, it's reminded us that behind every unsolved mystery is a family that's been destroyed by not knowing. Fred Murray doesn't just want to solve a puzzle, he wants to know what happened to his daughter. For 20 years, the Murray family has lived in a limbo. They can't grieve properly because they don't know if Maura is dead. They can't move on because they don't have closure. They can't celebrate her memory because they're still searching for her. So where is Maura Murray? After 2 decades of searching, investigating and theorising, we're no closer to an answer than we were in 2004. Is she living quietly somewhere under a new identity, watching the news coverage of her own disappearance? Is she buried in the New Hampshire woods, waiting for some hiker to discover her remains? Did she become the victim of a crime so perfectly executed that no evidence was left behind? Or is the truth something even more bizarre than any theory the internet has produced? Here's what I know. Somewhere out there is someone who knows what happened to Maura Murray. Someone who saw something, heard something, or was involved in something that could bring her family the answers they desperately need. That person might be watching this video right now. They might have been carrying this secret for 20 years, wondering if they could come forward. Maura Murray was 21 years old when she disappeared. If she's alive today, she would be 42. Somewhere, somehow, the truth about her disappearance is waiting to be discovered. The question isn't whether we'll solve the Maura Murray case, the question is when. Until then, the search continues. So that's today's story, and I have to say, it's one that will stick with me for quite some time. Now, if you've got something out of today's tale and you haven't already, please show that like button some appreciation. Also, please subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss my daily cases. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.